Hi, you all are welcome warmly on this channel. In this part of the video, we will be knowing about the difference between the open, private, correspondence courses from school or university versus regular colleges, schools or university. We have seen or we have heard, you would also have heard, you may have heard from your different sources that regular education is better than the open correspondence or private education. On this subject, we would know it, and I will try to elaborately tell you why is there so much difference between the two kind of courses. Who is successful, who are not successful in the open correspondence or the private colleges or schools, and why are there not much possibilities of your success in future from these private or correspondence courses. Not only that, even the regular colleges and schools, students or learners, they are not most of the time successful, and they are marginalized during their job, not only in private sector but also in government sector. Not only they are feeling completely degreeless, or they feel they don't have diplomas, they don't have the certificate, whether we talk about the government service, but also they feel such lackness, such unmeritoriousness in the private service. Now, what happens? Why there is so much taboos in our society, and why do we have the stereotypical nature, stereotypical thinking in our society, in our environment, where it is seen that regular education is better than the private education? Now, from where should I start? So there are several things I am going to just explain in this part of the video, but I will only cover mostly the most important relevant part. That part would help you a lot for your future success, and you would not only ignore the private education or the correspondence education, and you would never tell that regular education is more and more better than the correspondence education. Now I start from what is the meaning of the education. Why do you go to private schools or the regular schools, colleges, or somewhere else? Our purpose is to only have the better knowledge, better skills, better communication skills, better degrees, diplomas, and certificate. Second purpose is that the degrees and diploma we acquire from such schools or the universities, it must be valid, it must be legal, and it must have the recognition of the school or university's level. It must be necessary that these degrees, diplomas, and certificate must work and must run or must be used whenever it is used and whenever it should be used on the time of or at the time of your private sector or the government sector. So the first of all, we would eliminate our confusion or hesitation about knowing that whether these private degrees or correspondence degrees are important, or are they able to just compete with the regular degrees even in the government service. So let's start from here. There's no difference of the recognition between regular degrees and correspondence degrees. You can have any one of degrees, and both of them are valid through the government of India. And at the university level, we have the UGC net or UGC Grant Commission. They pass and they give the recognition to all the universities and colleges, whether it is government or whether it is private, that doesn't matter. But they have the power to regulate the degrees and to confer degrees to all those candidates they pass out from such universities. In the same way, the schools have, they are also the policies, they have also the recognition level from the government and the schools are liable. They have the legal power to confer the degrees to all those students they pass out from these schools. So there's no difference between the degrees of the regular or the correspondence or the private or the open degrees. They all are considered equivalent during the job. But whenever we talk about to the private sector, some of the places, like if you go multinational companies or the reputed companies, private degrees, correspondence degrees and open degrees are considered inferior to your regular degrees. They think you have not attended the regular classes and you would not have the much knowledge. You would not have the much communication skill and something or something else. They underestimate sometimes, but what happens that sometimes private correspondence or open school learners have more knowledge than the regular students or the regular persons. Why does it happen? Because the person who does the course from the correspondence or open schools or the universities, they can accomplish their task 1, 2, 3 or more and more tasks from that simultaneously. But from regular degrees, what happens that you have to indulge in regular process, you have to engage in every day's homework or assignment, and you can't do more and more courses because you have to focus more and more time in your degrees and the completion of all the tasks you are assigned from your universities or from the schools. So it is also the demerit of the regular degrees, because in our country there is no advantage and there is no guarantee of the job despite you have the degrees from the regular courses. In foreign countries, if you go to Germany, there if you pass out from the schools or colleges, you are confirmed with a job, because during the school or the colleges there are the trainings where you know your skills, where you are trained according to the level of your skill, and there you acquire the degrees, and by then you pass out from your colleges or the schools, you are able to do the job in some departments. But in India, such facilities are still prone, or it is the nightmare, because we have the dirty politics, we have the so many things which are completely indescribable here. So we can say that we can't compare our countries to the European countries, or most of the countries they are mostly advanced and they are developed. But with respect to the India's policies here, we can see here that with the regular degrees we must have some skills like communication skill, like some technical skills. But many of the students, though they have the regular degrees, are completely deprived of these skills, and as a result of that they are completely deprived of their future jobs. Not only the government, even in the private sectors they have to struggle, and they may have to take, I think, 5 years to 10 years to settle themselves somehow in these reputed companies, because many of the companies persons, they hire such persons who have the experience, and many of the graduate or postgraduate, they pass out from these regular colleges or the schools, they don't have the experience. But the correspondence or open schools, these students or the learners, they not only attend their Saturday or Sunday classes, or some classes they are completely preferred, or they are completely provided weekend level or some other ways. They not only attend the classes, but also they go to the company. They start learning under the supervision of some skilled persons in some specific fields, and they start learning about what is this, what is computer science, what is economics, what is your accountancy, what is car repairing, what is. So I think that these things are taught, but with the expectation of knowing more and more and for also gathering the experience. Now there are two things they are completely understood, and that is stereotypical nature of the society, friends and your relatives. They most of the time ask their relatives that why don't your student or your sons and daughters they study in regular classes or schools, because they send their sons and daughters in regular schools or colleges. So they think that other persons must attend the regular classes, and without regular classes there would not be the much knowledge. Okay, so this is the taboo of the society, but that's not correct here. You can acquire many of the degrees, diplomas and certificates altogether if you have the correspondence or open degrees. You can have more than 2 admissions, one regular and correspondence, in open or correspondence courses. And you would have more and more chances, you would have more capacities, you have more skills to develop yourself, because if you are serious for your life, you have wandered a lot in your life for the sake of your job. You have seen your family's plight, their struggling condition, and in that case, what do? You start just judging yourself what you can do for the sake of your family members. So in this condition, there are several difficulties in the life where what happens that many of the learners, they don't have the financial status, they are not financially strong, and they have to struggle a lot for their higher education. For the sake of that, what do? Sometimes they borrow loans from different sources, or sometimes they are in much debt from their nearest ones. Still, they are the debts. It's not guaranteed they would have the job in future. But many of the sensible, I think, the parents, they have seen the markets and the nature of the market. They don't take risks for their sons and daughters. They send the correspondence colleges or universities or schools, and they tell their sons and daughters to acquire some skills, everyday skills, everyday communication skill, everyday technical skills, which can make them a better person in their life. So regular education and correspondence education doesn't mean there are some government jobs where regular education is preferred. Even in the private sectors, regular education is preferred. Only preferred. It is your eyesight, it is your thinking, it is your consideration, it is your deliberate thinking. Sometimes if you don't have the job, even in the private companies or offices, what does your boss do? On the pretext of your correspondence degrees or private degrees, she may dismiss you, or she may not hire you for your specific jobs there. But a regular person, whether there are several regular colleges and schools in India, but there is nominal admissions of several of the candidates, but they don't attend in the classes, and there are some anomalies, there are some discrepancies in such colleges and schools. There are so much high level settings between the school staffs and the candidates and their parents, and they only bear their early charges, annual charges or half early charges, and they pass out with the degrees because they are happy with their regular degrees. Though we attend the regular classes, but you are not serious for your life, that what should you do for your future, you can never be successful in your future. I have seen many of the graduate and postgraduate I have taught in my lifetime. They have the MBA's degrees, they have a CS, computer science degree, they are BTechs, they are MTechs, they are from accountancy sectors, but they are not so much successful. Many of them are successful, many of them have got the job, but many of them had to struggle a lot for the job. Despite having the regular education, they had to struggle 5 to 10 years for their job, either in the private or the government sectors. Many of the students I have seen that they have got the job ultimately, but what was the profit of the regular education? I have never seen in his or her life. Many of the students and learners, they were serious for their life and education. They used to attend the regular classes, and they just got their job in time. But I think that it's not always possible for someone else, and it's not the human nature that you are always serious. Out of 100, I think 1, 2 or 3% student, they are serious for their lifestyle, for their future success. Whenever their parents are also serious, whenever they have seen the marketplace, there are so many struggles, there is a cutthroat competition in the market, they start thinking about their life. Many of the graduate and postgraduate, they don't care for their further education, that what would happen after the graduation, what would happen after the post graduation, for what ground, on what ground they would prepare in future. Many of them don't think about their future before graduation. Many of the serious students, they think about their future when they are 8th standard, 9th standard or 10th standard. They select such a stream, either in commerce, art or science stream, which would be beneficial and advantageous for their future success. She thinks that if this subject would excel her in his or her life, she selects it out, and it makes him comfortable for her future success, for his future success. So there are not any differences between the correspondence or regular courses. Only there is your eye, there is your thinking, there is a mindset, there is a stereotypical thinking in the society, there is a traditional thinking in society that regular classes is better than the correspondence classes. But that's not always true. Many of the time you would have seen, you may have seen, there are several correspondence students, they have cracked UPSC examination, that is the toughest examination of India. But if you have seen the circumstances and plight of your family members, and you are determined for your future success, no one can debar you, and no one can be just the hurdle of your life. Nothing can be hurdle for your life. You are always successful for your life. You are the architect of yourself. Degrees and diplomas, certificate are only merely the entrance of, it's only the recognition that you have studied your bachelor, master or some certificate or some technical or some accountancy degree, or there are several other degrees. Nowadays there are several other degrees in several fields. But that is not the guarantee of your success until or unless you have the proficiency, you have the excellency in your field, and only the proficiency and your excellent knowledge or the skills can make you the perfect person to be selected in the marketplace, whether we talk about the government or the private. In the government sector, there is the cutthroat competition. You would have seen that even the clerical post, there are thousands of vacancies where there are the lakh and crores of the candidates they apply for. But many of them, you would have seen that there is much corruption, and due to that many of their students, they don't have the job. Second one is also the reservation system which is going on in the country. I don't say that whatever has been instilled in the Constitution of India, but all of the things we have seen so far, above all we have seen that it is in the favor of those who are in the need of hour, because they were the backward in the past, and we think that the architect of the Constitution, they thought that it was the better time to make and give some privilege to these classes. So there are several things you would have seen about the correspondence courses or the private courses. We will discuss in future about some other topics. I think you would just take care of yourself. By then, take care of yourself, and you can just leave me your message, and you can tell me that how much you would have satisfied with it and how much you would have just judged all the things I have just lectured you here. Thank you so much by then.